you have made a history by achieving what is nearly impossible. I salute you again for this great feat. It is only Professor A.K. Sharma who could have brought together National Academy of Sciences of India and the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture to publish these volumes. This coming together of science and spirituality augurs well for all of us, and especially for this series of volumes. India has made major contributions, and you heard some of them just before, in a vast number of fields of sciences for ages, and a reliable history of these which could be read by students is lacking. These volumes, which have been just released, provide a broad overview of the history of Indian achievements in different fields, which are listed, which were listed here, which were just released. These volumes are written in a simple language. These give a picture of our past and also a glimpse of our present. History of science connects social sciences and sciences. It deals with issues of rise of sciences and their impact on society at different periods of history. We also come to know how developments of science was related to cultural, social, and political changes at different periods of our history, from antiquity, medieval times to recent period. The history of sciences in India has also to be seen as a part of the global history of science. We know that scientific knowledge grew gradually in our attempt to understand nature, with occasional flights of geniuses like Newton and Einstein. History of science also increases students' motivation and tells students how discoveries are made. In my view, no thorough grasp of science is possible without the history of its development. I shall now present a fleeting glimpse can be given in 20 minutes of the history of sciences in India. I shall first mention sciences in ancient India, about which we have heard or some aspects from Professor Vaidyanathan, then the degradation of science in the medieval period, and later the science in India in the Renaissance period, and finally mention the science after independence. Science in ancient India. Our civilization is old and rich. Indian contributions to mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, and medicine in ancient times are well known. There exists evidence of mathematical knowledge during Indus Valley civilization about 4000 BC. Astronomer and mathematician Aryabhata, who was from 476 to 550 AD, introduced trigonometric functions, and he also determined the value of pi. Arabic numerals, which are called Arabic, originated in India. The 9 digits and 0 were invented here. Astronomy grew in India in Vedic period, dating 1500 BC or older. The oldest known text is Vedang Jyotish, dated approximately 1400 BC. Indian astronomy flowered in 5th century, and Aryabhatiya, written by Aryabhata, represented the pinnacle of astronomical knowledge in India. Indian astronomy influenced Chinese astronomy and the Islamic astronomy. You just heard Professor Vaidyanathan talking about metallurgy of iron and copper. This was very well developed in ancient India, The famous Iron Pillar of Delhi, erected in late 4th century AD, stands as an amazing example of iron metallurgy. This pillar has withstood ravages of time and remains rust-free for over 1600 years. I will not mention medicine because you have just heard Professor Vaidyanathan. He is an authority, and I think anyone who is interested in the evolution of medicine in India, starting from Atharvaveda onwards, should read his legacy of Charaka, legacy of Sushruta, legacy of Bhagavata, and his introduction to astronomy. I will just now briefly mention science in medieval period. Medieval period corresponds to 10th to early 19th centuries. During this period, India was subjugated and it lost its freedom. Invaders not only destroyed temples but also libraries. Rulers tried to control science and education and promoted myths and dogmatic views. Most of the knowledge which survived was ritualistic. Knowledge remained a preserve of elite. Changes of dynasties and kings with different approaches to knowledge came in the way of growth of knowledge. This all led to degradation of Indian science during the medieval period. In the 18th and early 19th century, Indians gradually started participating in scientific and survey explorations promoted by colonizers. These explorations were mainly aimed at furthering British interest in exploring mineral wealth and plant resources. Coming to sciences in the Indian Renaissance period, in India, in the later part of the 19th century and early 20th century, the society experienced an awakening in all spheres of activity. This period also produced outstanding scientists like J.C. Bose, P.C. Ray, Srinivas Ramanujan, C.V. Raman, Meghnad Saha, S.N. Bose.